Release the Kraken!
Greetings, fellow game designers. Ron here at Lambda Studios, and today we are going to be bringing in our ships from Maya and dropping them into Unity. So let's go ahead and jump into Maya, and I have my first ship here. This is my hero ship. If you never made your hero ship or you haven't finished it, make sure you do that before you start this one. You're going to need that. So exporting the ship is pretty easy. We need the ship. We want to make sure that the ship is clear and it is positioned on the grid at 0. So if I go ahead and turn my grid on here, a little grid button there, or you can check your display and check grid and just make sure that it's checked. Again, this button and this button are independent, so if one is on and the other one's off, just make sure that they're both on. All right. So I want to make sure the ship is going to be in the position that I need it to be in when I export it. Now, you don't have to do that, but here's the thing. If I bring up the move tool, this is where my pivot is, right? And my ship is currently in line, sitting directly on the grid. You see that? If this is going into Unreal, this really matters. You want to make sure that it is positioned where you want the pivot to be. So right now, my pivot's over here. If I were to move this pivot over here, and I export this and it goes into Unreal, Unreal will automatically center the pivot wherever the grid line is. So Unreal will center it right smack dab there. Okay? Unity is a little bit more forgiving on that. You can tell it to center the pivot at the export location, or you can have it derive its own. But for best practices, depending on the game engine, I think it's just safer to do it directly from the center. So I'm going to go ahead and undo my pivot selection there. And I want to position my ship in the manner in which I want it to be in game and where I want this pivot handle to sit. So if I'm happy with this position, this crisscross position is where my pivot should end up. And I can naturally move it. So if I press the D key, and I can just snap my pivot by holding the X key, I can drag it down to the grid. I can just check, make sure it's on the grid. Hold down X again and snap to the middle. And then D locks the pivot there. And that is where my pivot should be when I export everything for my ship. If your ship is somewhere over here, again, Unity is pretty good at finding the center of the object, and it will also retain the offset. Unreal will be less forgiving, and it will just retain the offset and cause you some issues. So just make sure that your ship is positioned on the grid the way that you want it. Okay? That also includes your side view. So right now, the side of my ship is flush with the grid. If you want this to sink somewhere inside the grid, go ahead and do that. If you don't want it to go inside the grid, you can leave it right where it's at. Just make sure it's where you want it to be when you export it. I'm going to go back and grab my color. And once you have your ship in position, go ahead and take a look at your transforms. If they are anything but 0, and then your scales are anything but 1, go over to Modify, come down to Freeze Transforms, hit the options, and make sure that you are freezing your translate, rotate, and scale, and then freeze. And that will set all these to 0. And then you want to clear any history. So edit, delete by type, history. That way we have a clean model. We don't have anything that has extra stuff on it that we don't need. Okay? Once you have that, you can export. Select your ship, make sure you're in object mode. Go up to File, and then Export Selection. Go ahead and name it. I'm going to call this Hero Ship. Now the naming convention is to prefix it with the type of model that it is. So this is a static mesh because the mesh is not able to bend or flex. So that means it is static. So SM for static mesh, underscore, and then whatever the name of the ship is. So I'll do Hero Ship. And then I will come over and check my export type. So you have a file type. You can use OBJ. That is fine for Unity. Unreal will also accept it, but FBX is a little bit nicer. You can export animation data and other things with it. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the FBX export. And we have some export options in here. I'll go ahead and just close these down so we can see them all. Okay, so this is what you usually have if you close them all. And you want to be looking at the file type specific options. We're going to go down to geometry. And then we want to make sure that we have smooth mesh and reference asset content. And also, if you're going to be exporting to Unreal, make sure you have smoothing groups. Otherwise, you'll get a warning inside of Unreal. Unity doesn't really care, but Unreal will. The rest of these are optional depending on your needs. I'm going to close down geometry and then open up animation. For animation, this object is static. We don't have any animations on it, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck animations. That way we don't store animation data. And then I'll come down to export selection. Bam. Go ahead and hop over into Unity. I'm going to go ahead and create a folder. So I'll grab my assets and I'll right click, create folder. This is going to be my static meshes. So static meshes. And I'll also create a folder for materials. And one more for textures. I'm making these folders because when I bring in my static mesh, I'm going to need the texture that I made, and I also want to have a material applied to it as well. So I'm going to locate my static mesh, and I can just drag this in. And I'll drag that into my static meshes folder. And of course, just make sure you're bringing in the hero static mesh object. Don't bring in the Maya project. Unity will import the entire Maya project. Don't do that. You just need your ship object. Alright, so now the ship's in, I'm going to go ahead and open up my static mesh folder. And here is my ship. And if I hit this little arrow, you can see all the stuff that is inside the ship. I have the mesh, and I have the material. But I don't have the texture. That is saved somewhere else. So I'm going to go and jump into my textures folder. Now if you don't remember where you put your texture, you can always go back to Maya, select your ship, open up the attributes, and then go to your material where it says color. You can follow the arrow, and then you have a file path. So mine is stored in my game design classes folder, but you can find the path for yours in the very much the same way. So find it, and you can kind of go there. So I'm going to go to my game design classes folder. And I'll bring that into my Unity project. And once it pops in, we'll go back to our static mesh. And you can see that our ship has already inherited the appropriate color. Yay! But you'll notice that I can't do anything with my material. And the reason for that is it's baked onto my static mesh. I need to extract it. So I'm going to go up, grab my ship here. I'm going to come up to where it says materials. Extract materials, and then up in my little address bar here, you can see that I'm inside my Unity project. I'm inside the assets folder, which is this, and then I'm inside my static mesh folder, which is this one. I want to save my material in my materials folder, so I'm going to click on assets and then select my materials folder. If you don't have a materials folder or you forgot to make it, you can always click new folder and add that here, and then choose select folder. And you can see now it's been extracted from our ship, and it is now in the materials, and I can grab it, and now I have all the properties available, and I can modify them. Yay! So now that our ship is in our game, let's go ahead and add it to our hero prefab. So I'll grab the prefab folder. I'll open up my ship prefab. Let's go ahead and move my scene view. I'll just dock that to the game view here. Let's see, asset store, I don't care about that. You go ahead and just hide that one. So here's my ship. The top part is the actual ship. This cube and sphere, these are temporary. I put these in as placeholders. So I'm going to just go ahead and delete those. And then I'll select my hero, Let's go ahead and find my static mesh, and I will drag my static mesh into my hero. And there it is. Yay. I want to make sure that the position is set to 0. So 0, 0, 0. That way it's good in center. Okay. Let's go take a look in game view and see what that is. And that is pretty tiny. Now, I don't recommend scaling it, and I'll show you why. So we go back to our scene view, and I modify the scale. Let's say 3 by 3 by 3. Go back to my game view. That's a little bit nicer, but let's check out our actual hero. So if I grab that, you can see that our boundary box doesn't quite fit our ship. You don't have to have a precise collision boundary. Your game will be fine without it, but here's the thing. If I go up to my Y here and just kind of click that and center this, I'll hit it one more time. This is kind of how this boundary box is going to be. And if I go to my box collider, let me just adjust the size here so it fits maybe the wing size, and then I adjust the Z to get the tail size, and I adjust my center and the Z to kind of get this, about yay big. I can do this. This is perfectly fine, but this area does not really define the actual shape of our ship. This is blank space, and what's going to happen is your ship is going to collide with things when it shouldn't collide with things, and the player is going to get very mad. They're going to say, hey, that never hit me, that's not fair, and they'll get a little upset. I'm sure you've experienced it, we've all experienced it. So what we should do is, instead of using the box collider, use a more specific shape collider. So I'm going to get rid of my box collider. So I'll get to the little breadcrumbs here, and I'll remove it. And then I will add a component, and I'm going to do a mesh collider. So mesh collider. In my mesh collider, I have the option to find a mesh at the drop-down, and I'm just going to use my hero ship as my mesh. Okay. And then I want to make sure that I check the convex option, like so. Let me go ahead and just hit the little box here, and then I can just go ahead and position it, and we'll see what the issue is. Check this out. Can you see that? Maybe if I go into wireframe, I'll hit this little circle at the drop down. I'll go to wireframe, and I'll take a look. This is the boundary of our ship here. It's way too small. The reason is the default size of our ship is a lot smaller than our scaled size. See how that can be a problem? You can get around this. We can take our hero ship, and we can set this back to 1, 1, and 1. Now that fits, we can take our main hero object and scale that up. We can do 3 by 3 by 3, and that'll fit. And that does work. However, later on, if you have to do any modifying of the scale value inside your code, you're going to have to remember that you offset it by 3. And that's going to be an issue if you don't remember that. So, what I recommend is this. We'll set this back to 1. And then I'm going to jump back into Maya. We know that we want to scale this by 3. So I'm going to go up to here. I'm going to take my scale. I'm going to size it by 3. Okay. And then I'm going to freeze it. I'm going to come up to Modify, Freeze Transforms. So now this is the default scale. A scale of 1 puts it 3 times the size of what it was. And then I'll re-export. So File, Export Selection. I'll export over my previous ship, and then FBX Export, Export Selection. Yes. I'll jump back into Unity. Now Unity will not let me re-import. It's pretty bad about doing that. But let's see if it has been updated since. So let's go ahead and right-click, and let's do a re-import. You can see how it didn't fix it. Yeah, Unity sucks at re-importing. I don't know why. I'm going to go ahead and grab that. I'll just delete it. It's going to be red and angry, and I'll just drag it back in. Yay. And then I'll re-extract the material. Grab my main ship, Extract materials. I'm just going to extract it to my static mesh folder so I don't end up with 2 of them. So I'll go ahead and just extract it here. Yay. So here's the material. But if I go to my materials, you can see I already have one. So I'm just going to remove this one. Alright. My ship's going to be angry, but I can always add it back. So under the missing material tab, hit the drop down. I'll just grab it out of here. And then apply. Alright. Let's add this back to our ship. So now we have the correct ship size. Let's go back to shaded. A little drop down here. Shaded. Hey, there's the ship. And now I can go back to the hero ship, and I'll just check my mesh collider. And it shows that my mesh is already in there. Let me go ahead and just refresh this. I'll set it to none. And then I'll grab the shape again. And there we go. So there is our much more precise ship layout. Yay. And everything is default at 1. So now if I have to make any changes and I want to modify my scale, I don't have to memorize any offsets. I know the default's 1 and I can go back to it. One last thing before we jump out of here is this. If you look at our boundary, it doesn't fully match my wings. Now that's not a big deal. The player's not going to be super mad about this necessarily, but the reason we can't get this shape is it violates the rules of convex hulls. So if we go into my paint here, concave and convex. So here is a shape. This side is convex. This side, the interior side, this is concave. This is convex. If you can't remember how that works, concave goes in, like a cave. Okay? The rule is you cannot have concave shapes. The system has a hard time understanding how those work. So, it only produces convex shapes. In order for us to get this bend inward, we have to actually divide our boundary box into multiple convex hulls. So I'll show you how to do that if you really want to have that option here. So I'm going to jump into Maya. Here's my mesh. Let me go ahead and turn off my references. Here's my mesh. And this is what we're going to do. I'm going to create, so what I'll do is I'll make a shape that is multiple convex hulls that fits this. So if we take a look at this, this is mostly a pyramid. I can go ahead and drop one of those in. So let's go up to create actually. Polygon primitives, I'll grab a pyramid. Just move it off to the side here. And I'll get my shape under my pyramid. And let's do number of sides, I'll do 3. Awesome. Side length, I'll go ahead and just scale that up by middle mouse dragging. This is coming in kind of round. I'll press 1. That way it's just sharp. That's a lot better. Yeah. And then I'm going to match this to the outer shape of my ship here. So I'll grab that. Let's go ahead and center it. That's fine. And I'll just drag it up. That's pretty good. I'll go to my top view. I'll just kind of sort of rotate it. I don't have to be super precise because I'm going to snap the vertices where I want them. So I'll go into vertex selection. I'll grab this vertex on the corner, get my move tool. I'll hold down the V key and then just drag the middle and snap to the corner. Same thing with this one. Hold down V, grab the middle, snap to the corner. This one, hold down V, snap to the front. This one in the top middle, I'm going to go into my side view and I'll hold down V and I will snap to the top here. So there is my first convex hull. That fits my shape pretty good. And you can see we have some overlap where it's trying to conflict with it. That's not that big of a deal. This tail piece kind of bends up like this. What we can do for that is just extract it. So I'm going to grab my pyramid here. I'll press H to hide it. Take my ship. I'll go into face selection. And I'll grab the faces. Let me press 5 so I can see the outline. And I'll just grab these back faces here. And this one underneath. So these. And I want to duplicate the faces. So I'm going to hold Shift, hold right click, come down to duplicate face. That's going to generate a new object for me. And I'll go into object mode. Let me grab this tail piece. If you click it the first time, you'll grab the whole ship. Maybe. If you end up getting the whole ship, just click it a second time to get just this piece. I'll hit the W key and move it off. And then F to frame up. We're gonna have to close up this hole here. So that's probably okay. I'm gonna take this, grab this one and that one. Let me see if I can triangulate that. Modify, go into modeling, mesh, triangulate. And the reason I triangulated it is there's a bend here. And I'm just trying to help this out so it doesn't get confused. And then inside here, I want to close up this hole. So I'll go to edge selection, grab one of these outside edges, Shift, right click, again hold Shift, hold right click, go to fill hole. That'll close the hole up, but this is an n-gon. Remember that n-gons are illegal shapes. You can't have those. So I'm going to grab my multi-cut tool, and I'm going to just cut from this corner to that corner. And then right click to solve it. So now I have two convex hulls. Okay, so that's all closed up. And then back here, if I look at this, you can actually see that this actually is concave. It bends in a little bit. So just in case, I'll just go ahead and split this off. So I'll go into edge mode. I'll grab this edge and this one and this one. Let's go ahead and go up to edit mesh. We'll do a detach. That will split the edge for me. Go to object mode. Let me hide my ship. I'll grab my ship here, press H to hide it. I'll grab this piece, and we will set this back to 0. Alright, so that's where our ship should be. Pyramid, if I bring that up, that looks right. Alright, so I'll hide the pyramid again. And what I'll do on this is I'll go up to mesh, separate. It'll split it into two pieces. If yours doesn't split, that means you did not detach your center line. Make sure you select that line all the way around and choose the detach operation first. So detach, and then object mode, and then mesh, separate. So now that I have my two pieces, I'll grab this one. I'll just hit H to hide. This one I need to close up. So I'll grab the edge, hold Shift, hold right click, fill hole. And then I will hide this one by hitting H. And then I will, let me go ahead and open up this group here. Shift, hit the little button there. Let me see if I can hide the other one. Alright, so H to unhide, and I will close up the hole on this one. So this one, and then fill hole. Again, Shift, right click, fill hole. So now I have my pieces. So this is this one, this one, this one. And that one. Let's do a edit, delete by type, history. And I'll get these pieces and I'll pull them out of the ship here. So middle mouse, click and drag all my pieces out. Try that again. All my pieces, I'll get them out. There we go. And then this one, we'll pull that one out. All right, so this group I don't need, it's empty. This one I don't need, that one's empty. Let's see what this is. That is that hull, and that one, and that one. Okay. So this one is going to be hero ship. We'll call this, I'll do hull 1. Hero ship, hull 2, and then this one, what is that, H. Make sure that that's the right thing. Yeah, so this is hero ship hull 3. And I'll set that back to 0. This is my hero ship. I'm gonna just unhide it. I'll move it real quick. 6 to bring up the color. Yeah, so this is hero ship. All right, and then on these, I'm gonna do the UVs real quick. These don't really matter because we're not gonna deal with color, but just for best practices, I'm gonna go up to UV editor. And then these don't need to have the material on there. So right click and hold, go down to assign existing, we'll give it Lambert 1. And then we will do a create automatic because it doesn't really matter how these are done. So it looks good. These are overlapping, but it's all right because they're separated pieces. So this is one piece, that's its own piece, that's its own piece. All right. So I'll save that, and I'll export these separate pieces here. So I'll grab these, we'll delete the history. We'll go up to File, come down to Export Selection. I'll do SM Hero Ship, and I'll do this as collision. And then export. I'll bring this into Unity. So in my static meshes, I'll get the collision, bring this in. These don't need to have a material on them, so I'll grab this. I'll extract the material. Yeah, we'll bring that into our assets and then materials. And we have our various hull pieces. If I grab the hero ship here, I can trade out our old hull. So under here, under mesh, with the drop down, if I drag this out, we get to see the different shapes here. So this is the regular hero ship. This is hull 1. Interesting. What happened here is I did not freeze its transforms. I'm going to go back into Maya, grab this guy. You can see it still has transforms on it. It's important that we freeze those. So I'll go ahead and just grab all of these. Modify, freeze transforms. Where is your pivot? Its pivot is way up here. This one's pivot is down center. This one's pivot, down center. See how that's making a difference? But this guy's pivot is up here on the top. So I need to move that. So again, D to unlock the pivot. I'm going to do X to snap to the grid and drag the arrow down. Make sure that's centered on the grid. Yay. Remember how I said Unity is more forgiving? that does not hold true for your collision boundaries. They're very particular. So let's export those again and get those going. But it's good. If I make the mistakes, that means you can learn how to fix them. All right, export those once again. I'll jump back in. Delete this one. Unity, get it together. Make re-importing a thing. Unreal re-import's great. Okay, so hero ship. Let's go ahead and check our hull. Hey, third time's a charm. It fits. Yay. So how do we attach the extra bits? Well, we can add a new component and add another mesh collider. And I'll add one more. So now I have 3 different mesh colliders. I'll just set them to convex. And each one will have a piece of the hull. So the first one is there. Second one is going to be here. And then the third one will be the tail. Yeah, that's it. So now I have all those on here. And this will be a very precise collision box. So if I jump back into the game here, and I play my game, hey, there's my ship. And it's working. Bang, 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 bang. Oops. Lost my ship. There I am. Boom. Alright. So that's how you can import your ship, and you can separate your model into various convex hulls to get a precise collision. If you don't need the precision, you don't have to worry about it. If you want the precision, that's how you can do it. As long as you have single convex bodies, you can always add multiple. That's going to do it for this video. I hope you found it educational, and I shall see you next time. Hey guys, thank you for checking out my channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you enjoyed that video you just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Or if you want to support the channel, check me out on Patreon or pick up one of my books, Life and Times of Dinah Marton or The Guardian's Path of Ascension. Speaking of which, I'm converting The Guardians into a graphic novel / comic book series. Here is a sneak peek. My wonderful artist, Patrick, is doing a great job. I'm excited. I want to push this out as soon as possible. So definitely keep your ears and eyes open for that. I'll be making announcements as we get closer, and I'll post some shots of that as we go. And if you want to follow me on social media, you can check me out on Twitter. I guess now it's X. Who does that? It's BruceRF1 at Twitter, or at whatever the new thing for Twitter is. Anyway, hopefully see you there, and I'll see you guys next time.